Nicola Price here, and thank you for tuning in to Tax Tips and Best Practices for Working People. As promised, I am going to go over the 9 different methods to have your student loans forgiven. But today I'm going to go over the first method, and that is the public service loan forgiveness. So what is public service loan forgiveness and what is the criteria? Public service loan forgiveness was a program designed to encourage people to seek careers in the public service sector. And in exchange for your service, after 10 years, you could apply to have your student loans forgiven. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, there's always a caveat. And the first thing is that you have to be employed by a qualified employer. A qualified employer is any branch of the federal, state, and local government, any nonprofit exempt under Section 501c of the Internal Revenue Code, or a public service agency. Now, a public service agency would include libraries, community health centers, hospitals, education, elementary, middle, high school, as well as licensed child care facilities. So if you are an owner of a child care facility or an owner of your own nonprofit, you as the owner could qualify as well, but you would have to make sure that you are on payroll. So that means you would be issued a W-2 at the end of the year, and all your wages will be reported on this W-2, and you would have a title. And that would be enough to validate your employment by a qualified employer. Now, the second thing is that you have to be employed full time, and that's pretty straightforward. The third thing is that you have to make 120 qualifying payments. Now, qualifying payments are payments that are made on time. So that means they can't be more than 15 days late, and they have to be for the full amount. So no late payments. And so they have to be qualifying payments in order for them to count towards your 120 payments. So 120 payments made monthly is 10 years. And you can't accelerate that period. So if you make additional payments or if you pay a whole year in advance, you still have to wait until that 10 years has lapsed before you apply for forgiveness under public service loan forgiveness. Now, the fourth criteria is that you have to be making payments under a qualified repayment plan. So as you know, there are a variety of different types of payment plans that you can be under as you repay your student loans. But the only one that qualifies for the public service loan forgiveness is the Income Driven Repayment Plan, or IDR. So if you're currently not making your payments under the IDR, then you may want to go and revisit that and switch it over. The fifth criteria is that you only federal direct loans qualify for forgiveness. So if you have a loan by a private entity such as a bank or the school or university, then those would not qualify for forgiveness. Only federal direct loans qualify for forgiveness under this program. There is an exception. There are 2 types of federal loans that do not qualify, and that is the Perkins loan as well as the Federal Family Employer Loan or Federal Family Education Loan. So those are the 2 that do not qualify, even though they are federal loans. Now, that is the 5 criteria that you would have to meet to qualify. However, there has been some changes, right? And I'll go into that because these changes open up the door to include a whole lot more people who would not have qualified otherwise. The public service loan forgiveness was started in October of 2007. The first 10-year period would have came October 1st, 2017. the Department of Education, they pulled some data because they wanted to know how successful was this program. And being that they only had this data set from this year, from 2017 to 2018, to be able to pull from, because it was the first qualifying group. So when they pulled the data in 2018, they found that they received only 29,000 applications for forgiveness under this new program. Of those 29,000 applications, how many do you think were forgiven? I'll give you a few seconds. Only 96. That's right. Only 96 applications were forgiven out of the 29,000 student loan borrower applications they received. That's roughly 1%. They tried again in 2019. So they pulled the data in 2019, hoping for a better outcome, right? And so they found that only 2% of borrowers' applications were approved. So the needle hadn't moved very far. Epic fail. There were so many people that were disappointed. There was so much dissent by a variety of different people, all types of stakeholders, all type of representatives and Congress and student loan borrowers. Everyone was upset because there was a lot of hope in this program, right? And so the Biden administration had to do something. And so their solution was the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness. Now, the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness was designed to relax or waive some of that initial criteria that we talked about earlier, right? And so by doing this, they hoped that more people would qualify for student loan forgiveness under the public service loan forgiveness program, right? So one of the things that they laxed or relaxed or waived under the temporary expanded public service loan program was that you did not have to be employed by a qualified employer at the time of your application, during processing, and at forgiveness. Because prior to, you had to still be employed by the qualified employer and working full-time when you submitted your application, and remained employed full-time while the application was being processed and at the time of forgiveness. And so with the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, they relaxed that requirement. So you did not have to be employed at all, in fact, nor did you have to be employed by a qualified employer at, during, and when the forgiveness was granted. So that was one of the things that they kind of waived to open up the door to more people. The second thing that they waived was, remember the first criteria that we talked about earlier is that you had to have 120 qualifying payments. Well, that part didn't change, but what did change is that they opened it up to include payments that were made late and payments that weren't made in full. So they included partial payments. So those payments counted towards your qualifying 120 payments. So they opened that up a little bit. So another thing that they opened up was that prior, only the payments made under the IDR or the income-driven repayment plan counted towards your qualifying payments, and that only payments made on federal direct loans counted. So they opened that up and they said, you know what, if you consolidated your loans in the past, or if you consolidate them now, it will include any payment plan that you were on in the past and in the present, and it includes all federal direct loans. So they opened that up a little bit because remember prior, it can only be payments made under IDR and it can only be federal direct payments with the exception of those two. So with the temporary expanded public service loan forgiveness, they opened it up to include the Perkins and the federal family education loan. So all federal direct loans, as well as payments made on any of the other payment plans. So that is only if you consolidated those loans in the past and currently for those to be included in that temporary expansion. So those were some remedies that they made to open this thing up. However, the thing is that you only have 1 year to submit your application to qualify under this temporary expansion, right? So you have until October 31st of 2022 to get your application in, right? Now, prior, they found out that a lot of people were denied because they simply did not complete the application correctly. And so they were denied for that reason. And so now, under the temporary expansion, they streamlined that application. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. Most people shouldn't have a problem getting through the application. It's roughly 5 to 6 pages. I have posted a link to the application below, as well as a link to help you determine who your student loan servicer is, because the applications have to be turned in to the student loan servicer, because those will be the entities who will be reviewing the applications and things of that nature. So the servicer will be the same person or the same entity who you make your payments to, who sends you the invoices and things of that nature. So that would be the same entity that you would submit the application to. I am so glad to be able to share this information from you. I am hopeful that you were able to capture some valuable information from what I shared with you today. There is so much more that I'm going to share. And in fact, the next method that I will be talking about is the teacher loan forgiveness. Now, the unique thing about the teacher loan forgiveness is that if you are a teacher, you can qualify for forgiveness under the teacher loan forgiveness as well as the public service loan forgiveness. So that is the unique thing about that. You get to kind of double dip. In fact, out of the 9 methods, you can qualify under one or more of these methods. And so that is the unique thing about this that I'm going to share with you all in the coming days and weeks. I'm so excited to get into this with you all. But before I go, I want to shout out a small business called Soulcentricitea. They are a tea shop. So they sell a variety of different teas and things of that nature. And they are absolutely awesome. I patronize this business regularly. The tea is just so soothing, and it's just, I just can't explain it. You guys will have to try it for yourself. I absolutely love Soulcentricitea. My favorite is the Moroccan mint tea. I get it at least 3 to 4 times a week. So I will post a link to their social media below as well. If you guys want to check them out, I am certain, I am positive you will not be disappointed. I absolutely love this small business. So you all show them some love, and I will be back with you guys to share more information on student loan forgiveness. I will go over the second method, teacher loan forgiveness. So I am so looking forward to it. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, set the notifications so you will not miss this. Until then, I'll see you all later. Bye.